close your eyes for a second. It's 2006. It's 11 p.m. on a school night. You're hunched over Adele Inspirin in the dark, and somewhere inside a MySpace page you clicked by accident. Underneath neon pink text and a blinking cursor, there is a song loading. You have no idea what it is. You have no idea who made it. But you are about to find your favorite band. Before YouTube autoplay, before Spotify knew your mood better than you did, before the algorithm decided what you loved, there was a window, a short, strange, beautiful window between roughly 2004 and 2008, when finding music meant actually hunting for it. And the hunt, the broken links, the buffering, the wrong downloads, that was the whole point. Let's start with the most personal real estate on the early internet. Your MySpace profile song, not your playlist, not your library. One song, the one song that played automatically, whether your visitor wanted it to or not, the moment someone clicked your name. Choosing that song was not a casual decision. You agonized over it. You changed it 4 times in one weekend, because that song said everything about who you were, or more importantly, who you were trying to become. If your song was From Under the Cork Tree era, you were one kind of person. If it was Senses Fail or Hawthorne Heights, you were another. And if you were loading up something nobody had heard of, some band from a city nobody cared about, some file you found on a forum at 1 a.m., you were the tastemaker. You were the person your friends came to. And that 8-second load time, that buffering pause before the song kicked in, that was suspense. That was anticipation. That was a feeling that a 30-millisecond Spotify stream has never once replicated. Before Fall Out Boy were selling out arenas, before Paramore's Hayley Williams was on the cover of anything, there was pure volume. If you were on the internet in 2004 and 2005 and you cared about music, really cared, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Pure Volume launched in 2003 and it was devastatingly simple. Bands uploaded their music directly. No label, no gatekeeping, no industry middleman standing between a kid in a garage in Wilmette, Illinois, and a kid in a bedroom in Phoenix, Arizona, who needed to hear exactly what that garage band was playing. Fall Out Boy had a Pure Volume page. Paramore had a Pure Volume page. The Academy had a Pure Volume page. And thousands of bands who never made it anywhere also had Pure Volume pages, and some of those songs were the best things you ever heard, and they are completely gone now. And then there was Absolute Punk. Founded by Jason Tate in 2000, it was a forum, a review site, and an entire social ecosystem. And if you were a teenager who cared about punk and post-hardcore in 2005 and 2006, your opinions were formed in those comment threads. Not by Rolling Stone, not by MTV. By other teenagers, typing furiously, passionate about music in a way that felt almost violent. That's where reputations were made. That's where you first read the name of a band you'd spend the next 4 years devoted to. We need to talk about LimeWire. We're not here to debate the ethics of it. We're here to talk about what it felt like. Because what it felt like was like rummaging through an enormous, slightly chaotic, completely anonymous record store that was also somehow a little bit dangerous. You would search for a band. You would get 47 results, most of which were mislabeled, some of which were viruses, and occasionally, one of which was exactly what you wanted. But here's the thing nobody talks about: the wrong downloads. You downloaded what you thought was a Taking Back Sunday track. You opened it in Windows Media Player. And what came out of your speakers was something completely different. Some band you'd never heard of. Some song that had been mislabeled by some anonymous stranger whose username was XXDarkwingXCX. And instead of deleting it, you listened. And sometimes you listened again. And 3 weeks later, you were telling everyone you knew about this band you found, and you couldn't even remember how. That was the LimeWire miracle. The beautiful accident built into the broken system. If someone made you a mix CD in 2006, they were telling you something. They might not have said it out loud. They might have handed it to you with a shrug and said it was just stuff they liked, but they spent 2 hours on that track listing. They agonized over the order. They argued with themselves about whether to include the slow song third or save it for eighth. The mix CD was a primary document. It was a map of someone's inner life, organized into 74 minutes and handed to you like it was nothing. And the sleepover library share, that was its own kind of intimacy. You plug in at your friend's house and suddenly their entire iTunes library is visible. Every song they've ever loved, sorted alphabetically, just sitting there. You could learn more about a person from their iTunes library in 2007 than from reading their journal. You burned it. You waited 4 minutes and 20 seconds. And you drove home with 12 new songs that you were going to fall in love with, because someone who knew you had chosen them specifically for you. No algorithm has ever done that. Here's a name that most people under 25 have never heard, and most people over 30 have almost completely forgotten. eMeme launched in 2006. eMeme was a social music streaming platform. You could stream full songs. You could create playlists. You could share them. You could follow other users and discover their music. You could embed your playlist on, you guessed it, your MySpace page. eMeme was, in almost every functional sense, Spotify. 2 years before Spotify launched in Europe. 4 years before Spotify came to America. MySpace acquired eMeme in late 2009. By early 2010, it was gone. Not archived, not preserved, just gone. Every playlist, every user-curated collection, every embedded player on every profile, silent. eMeme was the road not taken. And if you used it, you knew, you just knew, you were touching the future. And then, the future was deleted. Before there was an algorithm, there were teenagers with too many feelings and too much time, and a LiveJournal account. LiveJournal music communities were the original streaming playlists. Someone would find a band with 200 MySpace friends and a pure volume page nobody had visited. And they would write a post, not a tweet, not a caption, a post, 4 paragraphs about why this band mattered, why you needed to download this EP, why these 3 songs might change you. And then Blogspot gave teenagers a megaphone. Music blogs exploded between 2005 and 2008. Some of them, like Gorilla vs. Bear, which launched in 2005, became genuinely influential tastemakers. But even the ones nobody read outside a friend group were doing something remarkable. They were curating. They were contextualizing. They were doing exactly what the algorithm does now, except with actual human emotion behind every single recommendation. When a teenager in 2007 told you to listen to something on their blog, they meant it in a way that a Spotify Discover weekly notification simply cannot mean anything. They were staking their taste. They were saying, "This is me. Trust me." Here's the moment, the one that hits different. It's 2010, maybe 2011. You're older now, not much, but enough. You remember an old profile URL, maybe yours from 2007, maybe an ex's, maybe a friend who moved away. You type it in almost without thinking, and the song starts playing. The song you chose when you were 15. The song that was supposed to say everything about you in the year you were desperately trying to figure out who you were. And it does. It still does. It says everything. It says, you were here. You were this person. You felt this way. There is no version of the modern internet that can do that to you. There is no notification from Spotify that reaches back through time and plays you the exact song you were when you were becoming yourself. The broken internet of 2004 to 2008 could, because you put yourself into it. You chose, you built, you burned, you downloaded and waited and refreshed and hoped. The music you found yourself felt like yours, not because you paid for it. In a lot of cases, let's be honest, you didn't, but because you worked for it. You sat through the buffer. You followed the broken link. You copied down the Blogspot URL in your school planner because you couldn't access it from school. You asked your friend to burn you a copy. You stayed up until midnight downloading what turned out to be the wrong file and listening anyway. The last generation that had to work to find what they loved was also, maybe not coincidentally, the generation that loved what they found with a particular kind of ferocity. Because cost creates value. Friction creates meaning. And a song that took you 3 weeks to track down hit different than a song that appeared in your queue because 40 million other people had it in their library. Pure volume is gone. E-meme is gone. Those MySpace pages are mostly frozen in time, songs still embedded, waiting. The LimeWire files are on hard drives in closets. The burned CDs are in cases in boxes under beds. But the feeling of being 15 and finding your song in the dark, on a forum, on a blog, on a stranger's profile, that doesn't go anywhere. That lives in whatever part of you became you. If this took you somewhere, I'd love to know where. Drop the song in the comments, the one you found in the broken internet, the one that was yours before anyone else knew about it. I'll be down there reading every single one. Subscribe if you want to keep going back. There's a lot more era we haven't touched yet.